Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide. Today we have the amazing Jesse with us. Hi, Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you very much. Do you want to tell the listeners more about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
Sure. I'm Jesse Flores. I currently reside in the U.S. I split my time between Los Angeles and Atlanta,
Yeah.
and I recently joined Intercept Music as their head of artist and label partnerships. Intercept Music is a global distribution company that serves the independent artist and label community. And I like to think of ourselves as a nice blend of music, tech, and people. Music because our core business is music distribution. Tech because we do that via our platform, which is second to none, and people because we have a team of lovely individuals that super serve our clients and are there to grow their business. So
Excellent.
that's it in a nutshell.
And how did you get into the music industry? Tell us a little bit more about that and what kind of brought you into it.
Yeah, so I got in the music industry in college. I was on campus at the University of Florida selling mixtapes, just trying to figure out how to get in the business without really knowing how to. At my school, we have a student run organization that put on various shows and brought artists to perform on a yearly basis called SGP. I was able to join that and really kind of get my feet wet as far as like, dealing with artists and just getting involved with the whole, I guess, booking and show side of the business. And did that for about a year. And then I graduated and, I was still kind of hanging around the school and trying to figure out my next move. And I saw that one of the distribution companies at the time, PolyGram Music, was looking for a college rep in Central Florida. And I was able to apply for that, and I got that job. So I was a college rep, which was a part-time gig. And then I got a job offer for PolyGram for a field rep in Detroit or LA. And I chose to move to LA. So that was my first full-time official gig in the music industry and how I got started.
That's awesome. And I think Florida is it's the second main base in America for music, right? So tell us a little bit more what it's like to be in Florida and the artists that came out of Florida at your time.
Yeah, it was an interesting time because this was and I'm dating myself, it was the late 90s. So, yeah, I was just getting started as a part time college rep, like I said. And at the time, there weren't really a lot of major distributors and labels in Florida outside of a few independents,
Right.
especially on the urban side. You know, I had like, in Miami, I had like Luke Records and Slip and Slide Records and a few urban labels, but none of the big companies were based out there. It was mainly LA and Los Angeles. So I knew if I really wanted to move up, I had to move to one of those bigger markets. And that's exactly what I did when I got the opportunity to move to LA.
That's really cool. So, did you find independent artists from Florida and then made them big artists, independent artists that actually sold records and then moved up to the next phase?
Not at the time, because at Polygram, we had a bunch of the major labels that were pretty well known at the time. Polygram had Def Jam Records, they had Island Records, they had Motown Records. So these are all pretty established labels within the community. And they were signing new artists. And what my job was to kind of help grow those developing artists and take them to the next level. So we had a lot of like, rappers and R&B artists that were just getting started that, these labels were investing their time and money into really developing into full-time established artists.
That's really great. And what do you think it takes for an artist these days to get that development in place and get funding? Because I think that's really difficult right now.
It takes a lot of work. You got to have a really great work ethic, and it takes leverage. So I advise any artist out there that's really getting started to remain independent and kind of, build your own brand and your own unique story that you can tell, because you got to rise above the noise. There's just so much new music out there, so much clutter. You got to think to yourself, how can I separate myself from everybody else and have people just even notice the work I'm putting in, the great music I'm putting out? And a lot of that has to do with, having a consistent release schedule of music. You be consistent with the content you put out. Also, be consistent with your messaging to your social media fan base, and getting them involved, having them feel connected and being a part of the whole process, because that's what you really need to do to build a real loyal fan base, to get those super fans that are going to be there for anything you do, whether it's a show, a new album coming out, they're there for you regardless.
Absolutely. And how important has authenticity been for you and your career to get you to where you are today?
I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't catch that.
Authenticity been in getting you to where you are today? and for the artists that you've worked with?
I am so sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing.
How important has authenticity been for you and
Oh,
your artists
authenticity.
when you work with them? Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
it's crucial. It's crucial, definitely on the creative side for artists, and definitely on the business side because, from my experience, you got to have that trust and integrity.
Mhm.
That means everything because, as you probably know, the business is all about relationships and who you know, and you want to be somebody that's reliable, that they can count on. That if they talk to you, you know you're going to get a straight answer and nothing but the truth. And whether it's they want to hear it or not, whether it's good or bad. So authenticity, especially when it comes to creativity as well and music, there's nothing better than hearing something that you haven't heard before that's unique and different because that's going to really stand out.
Absolutely. And when you got into music, what kind of barriers and issues did you face? Obviously, you're in a different country. The music industry
Mhm.
might be different. So what kind of barriers, issues did you face and overcome to get to where you are right now?
Um, I think a lot of the barriers that I faced, and there has been a lot, I have to be honest, was just early on in my career. I didn't want to be pigeonholed, because of my race or maybe because of the music I was into. Obviously I'm Latino, so I didn't want to be pigeonholed as just somebody that works Latin music. I love all music, and I really specialized at the time in college in hip hop and R&B, I didn't really necessarily face a lot of barriers per se, but I can tell that I could easily be pigeonholed if I let that happen, because of that. And then also, it's just you want to expand. I don't really know as a guy that just works urban music. I work all genres, and I've definitely proven that over the years via the jobs I was able to accept and move forward with.
Tell some of the listeners, what kind of artists have you worked with? Because I already know, but they don't. So tell us a little bit more
Yeah.
about that and your history.
Well, it definitely spans the gamut. I mean, I've worked with everybody from like Nelly to Three Doors Down to Godsmack to Ice Cube, Trina, Raekwon, Tyrese, Bobby Valentino, Royce the 5'9", DJ Premier, Stephen Marley, um, a lot of great artists. There's just so many to name, but I'm very thankful for all those experiences.
We're so grateful to have you on the show and to tell your story and to also speak your truth. Because I think, the music industry is really difficult. Trying to break into it, trying to make it. What do you think the things are that any artist needs now to make that, break that noise and be that voice that community needs?
Yeah, I definitely think they need to sit down and really set goals and have a vision. Do I really want to have this as a career and, make money from it and have that be my main, source of income? Because if that's the case, then you really need to have a plan for everything you do, whether it's a release. You got to really sit down and then what I like to do is have our artists devise a plan of attack or a plan of strategy for each of the DSPs because they're all different in their own way. So if you have an album coming out, have a plan for YouTube, have a plan for Spotify, for Apple. I also like to advise each and every artist that's really want to take it to the next level and do have some traction with what they're releasing to have a great team around you that you trust. And that team of people I call the Fantastic Five, which is a good manager, a good distributor, a good attorney,
Yeah,
entertainment attorney, a good publicist, and a good online marketing and social media strategist.
that's really cool, actually. And I'm glad you said that. And you've also touched on mixtapes. Mixtapes were massive back in the day. Do you
Yeah.
think it's starting to come back now? Because we had Dolce, she brought out a mixtape, and it wasn't quite an album. And I kind of like the feel of a mixtape because you can sample stuff, and it doesn't always have to have its own work. Do you think they're coming back in right now, or do you think it's kind of just moved on to singles, albums? What do you think that's about?
I do think mixtapes are still viable because they're not, an official album release per se. But back when mixtapes really first started in the '90s, at least in the hip hop genre, they were everything to me because my mom is from New York in the Bronx, and I used to go there every summer, not only collect like mixtapes and all that, but also the latest fashion and clothes because I would go back to Florida where that stuff's not available, and I'd be like one of the only people that had that kind of stuff. But the mixtape scene was great because you obviously had exclusive content from some artists that wasn't available. You have different blends or what they call mashups now,
Yeah,
which were kind of cool and unique and different. And I started actually selling them on campus at the University of Florida right when the CD mixtapes were dropping. So that was a whole nother thing because I could charge like $20 and they would just fly like hotcakes. So
It's
just the mixtape scene in general was exciting because you always got to hear new and exclusive music that most people hadn't heard before.
new and exclusive, but also remixes from other people's tracks, which you kind
And
of
remixes, exactly.
I
Yes.
love. It's a lot harder now for artists to make money. What kind of advice would you give artists now because they can't make money from streaming? You can't really make money from a lot of things in music anymore. How would you advise an artist to diversify their income where they can actually make some money to make an album? Because I think that's a lot of the problems artists face now.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of these platforms now you can monetize, and I think if you have content that people want to consume, you can find a way to make money. There's just so many different platforms out there. And then once you get to a point where people are familiar with your content and know your music, you can start doing shows. I mean, even if it's local clubs or anything, when it comes to like genres such as like a hip hop genre, you can start off in your home market and really build that buzz there. And then you could see it spread if things really take off. And one recent example is an artist that's actually signed to Motown, but her name is Pluto. She had a song, in the spring called Win Whammy that in Atlanta, when I would go there, because I have a place there, I heard it everywhere. Like I heard it on the radio. I hear it, at the barbershop. I hear it at a club. I hear it like driving down the street. I'm like, what is this song? And then
Yeah,
I heard it on Sirius XM, and it was this Win Whammy track, and she was based in Atlanta. She's from there, and if you really have a credible, fan base and people in your town that support you, they'll play your song to death, and they'll just really create this moment for you where it'll take things to the next level and to the point where you might release it on do it yourself distributor, and then you're getting like Motown calling or another major label calling, because if you're making noise in your market, you will have people that'll find you from these labels, and that's a fact.
how important is it to retain your rights these days? We've heard a lot about artists signing deals that were not great. They don't have their rights. They can't make any money. We've had people like TLC selling platinum plats and being broke. So, what kind of advice would you give to those artists that are actually trying to make it? They want to make it. They want the publicity. They want to become, a household name, but they shouldn't be signing their rights away. So, what kind of advice would you give to those kind of artists as well, that are trying to make it and don't sell it all away?
Yeah, well, if you're an independent artist and you can obviously sign with a company like Intercept Music, that's a distributor where we obviously provide a service for you, which is distribution, provide you with marketing tools to help support your releases, but you retain 100% of your rights. You retain 100% creative control. That's not something we participate in. We're there to help be your strategic growth partner, help take your music and your career to the next level without owning what you create. And to be honest, a lot of the major labels are doing those type of deals now where they're license deals. So instead of a major artist just signing to a label and only getting a royalty rate, they're actually owning their content. They're just licensing their music to these big major labels who are providing the funding necessary to help grow their career as well.
Really love actually, and how important do you think sync is as well? Because I think sync's a massive part of an income for any artist these days. A lot of things have died away when it comes to making money. So would you say that artists should be signing up to sync deals? They should be trying to get their stuff on ads, TV programs and stuff like that. I think that would help.
Absolutely, because that's another revenue stream that's there for you, and you can sign a sync deal on a non-exclusive basis. So whatever company's pitching your content is only going to eat what they kill. So you're not dedicated to just one agency. You can kind of have your distributor help with your sync, or maybe you have somebody else that on the side that can help as well. Either way, you're going to get paid off those royalties, which could be huge depending on what kind of sync it is.
So I love, and we've already talked about Intercept already because we've had some people on the show already. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you do, what you provide for artists, and how you can help them grow?
Yeah. So, I mean, my core responsibility at Intercept is to source new deals, whether it's a distribution deal with an artist, distribution deal with an independent label, or maybe it's a catalog acquisition deal where an artist that's been established, that's been on a major, that has now retained their rights, they reverted back to the artist, and they just want to basically cash out. They want to sell their catalog. That's an option as well that we can look into. And as far as our current label partners and artists, what I do along with our team is help provide a strategy. Whether it's a new release, we'd like to know what they have coming out in the next 12 months so we can kind of strategize on how we want to release the next, album or the next single, whether it makes sense to, release 15 tracks as one full album, or maybe it's two EPs, maybe it's an album with a deluxe album version coming later with 2 or 5 extra tracks, that kind of thing. So we want to create moments. Every time you release something, you have an opportunity to have a focus track that these DSPs can really, support. And, having those additional moments really help grow a career, whether it's, expanding your Spotify followers from 500 to 1,000, setting those realistic goals so that we can actually achieve them and show that there's some growth there and that what we're doing is really making sense and a positive impact.
I think that's really, really important that you touch on strategy, because I think strategy is a really important part for any artist these days. I've done a lot of work on my own. I manage myself, I do a lot of talks, I do a lot of speaking, I travel around, I do loads. But it's really hard for one person to handle. What would you say the next steps are for an artist that is on their own? They want to get to those next steps, but they don't have that team yet. You've already mentioned the 5 main people that you need, but how would you find those people if you don't already know them?
You need to get out there and network. There's still a few conferences out there that I would recommend. I know in the states there's the Music Biz conference that's held annually. There's other regional conferences as well. But I found out in my career, once you're out there and you're in the places that to be where you can meet people and talk to them face to face, that always helps because you never know who you're going to meet. And if you're right place, right time is absolutely something that is a reality and happens. I'm somebody, when I first started, I'm self-admittedly was an introvert. I didn't really like being social and going out there. But then I realized really quickly that if you want to be in the music business, you have to get out there, flip that switch and turn it on and meet people and talk about, what you want to do, find out what they do. Is this a perfect fit? Is this a good match? Is this something that we can both benefit from, that type of thing? Because it can only help in the long run.
That's really, really important. For me, I've always networked and collaborated and built meaningful relationships. So how important has that been for you? Because obviously you've gone from Florida, gone to, California, you've done a lot of things, LA, you know. What kind of things would you say that with those friendships that you've built along the way, how have they helped you?
They've helped me tremendously. I can honestly say I would not be where I am today or be in the music business for close to 30 years without true friends in the business and those relationships. I've been laid off twice. So, I mean, it's the first time it really hurt me hard because it came out of nowhere. I couldn't believe it. I just made this company a lot of money and now I'm no longer, uh, I guess, worthy of being part of the company. And it really wasn't anything that was attributed to me. It was just a company merger. Every time it was a company merger and it's just a headcount issue and they needed to, consolidate. So because that happened and I had relationships with people, I found out who my true friends are because they would reach out to me, check out to make sure I'm okay, ask me if I needed anything. And that's how I got to meet the CEO of Intercept Music, Ralph Tashian. He was one of those guys that I've known for 15 years. And last year when I separated from my previous employer, he was there for me and he was relentless. He constantly reached out, wanted to make sure I was okay. When I was ready to move forward and think of other opportunities, he was there for me, and he presented me with a new opportunity earlier this year that I couldn't refuse. So that's where I am today.
That's what a real friendship does for you, right? It can always
All
go
right.
up and sometimes it goes down. And I think the music is full of ups and downs. So let's talk about your career, how you got to where you are, and what exactly your role in.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
Exactly does your role entail as well? So tell us a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah. So finding new business is a big part of my role at Intercept. Just basically trying to inform people of the company, letting my contacts know who we are, what we do, how they can be a part of it. Also helping grow our current label partners and help take their business to the next level. Whether it's just, obviously increasing their consumption activity at all the DSPs, finding new strategies and ways to partner with them, working with our team on trying to get these artists and labels, features, placements, playlisting, that kind of thing. Just strategic growth. That's my main goal, is being that guy that can help our clients take things to the next level.
Know how. So tell us what kind of DSPs are really important in music and which ones are
Yeah.
not. Each DSP's got their own audience, right, and their own market. So how music
Mhm.
artists is different. How are you going to find them?
Yeah, well, from the business side of things, I can tell you that a lot of distributors really look at the commercial DSPs. So Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon. Those are a lot of the main ones. Pandora's, Deezer, Tidal. All those DSPs definitely have a factor. But I'd say if I had to like limit it to two, YouTube and Spotify. I also think that social media platforms are definitely have an impact. The TikToks of the world, because as of today, the major platforms for music discovery nowadays is YouTube and also TikTok. So those are the two main ones. Whereas before, years ago, it was radio. That's where a lot of people found their new music that they got into. But things have definitely changed, and they're always going to change because that's the nature of the industry.
Great answer, Jess. And just tell us a little bit more, like, what's your thoughts and feelings on TikTok? Because we hear a lot about TikTok, we see a lot of artists coming up on TikTok. Do you think do they have longevity, or are they more like a one-hit wonder?
I think short form video clips on platforms like YouTube and Spotify, and I'm sorry, on TikTok. I think they're here to stay. I mean, I think they really gained their importance and popularity over the pandemic, and with TikTok in particular, it's just nonstop. It has not gone away. It is still there. It's still powerful. Like people devise campaigns regarding around TikTok. They, hire TikTok influencers, to promote music. So it's definitely big business, big part of the music industry, and I just don't see it going away anytime soon because TikTok users still consume all this content.
I really get what you're saying, but do you think artists have put in, back in the days, a lot of artists have to put in a lot of work to get to where they were, to get onto radio, to tell a story, not to just sit in your room, get a video phone and film yourself and have a viral hit. Do you think that has an impact on the quality of music that's coming out?
That's a good question. I do think that the quality of music overall has been a little watered down just because anyone can release music nowadays. If you have a computer, you can release music. So there's just a lot of clutter out there, and I do think quality music does rise over the top, and a part of that is to get that noticeable is having that good team, like I spoke about earlier, and just having a good distributor as well that can help push you from their side and augment what you're already doing when it comes to the DSP, so you can get those extra features and placements that can really make a difference in your career.
I've done a lot of work in the music business, as you know, and so have you. However, how important is that for artists these days to know what they're getting into before they sign a label agreement, any kind of deal? Should they know the business? Should they actually be out there networking, meeting these people? As we've already touched on, but how important is that for them to get them to where they need to go? So I think it's
I think it's vital. I mean, the more knowledge you know, the better. Do the research, as we all do. For example, before I decided to agree to the podcast and appear with you, I wanted to check out some of your previous episodes and get a little, knowledgeable on what you've done over the years with your podcast. So I'm not coming in here blindly. So I think that with anything, you want to make sure you at least get a basic knowledge of what you're getting into, so you know what you're talking about and you know what to look for and you know what questions to ask.
100%. And we've had a lot of changes with AI and stuff going on. So what's your kind of thoughts and feelings around AI, music creation, copyright? Do you think we could do more on protecting artists?
So with AI, it's definitely a hot topic nowadays, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon. When it comes to music creation, that's a tough one for us because we obviously support human creation of music over at Intercept. However, we do definitely utilize AI when it comes to it being a marketing tool. It's very helpful, especially within our dashboard. We can actually have AI create a marketing plan or create social media messaging or create a bio or a press release for any of our artists' content, which is definitely a plus in my book. But when it comes to creation, it's tough to govern and to kind of manage. And if that really, takes over, which I don't think it will, then it's really going to get hard to get noticed because there's just going to be that much more content out there.
Human emotion. I think we could never touch that. This is about real lived experience and being personal about yourself. So yeah, I think that's really important. But tell us a little bit more about how many artists you've got signed up to Intercept at the moment, how many people you're supporting, what's your global network? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I've been with Intercept for a couple of months now, and definitely got some things in the pipeline in the works. Can't really mention them until actually signed, but some good things, some good catalogs, some good artists that I've worked with in the past, and I'm looking to bring over to Intercept. But we currently, what's on the roster, we have Cali Ranks, who's a reggae dancehall artist. He's got a new release coming that we're excited about, a couple other artists as well. But I think in the next month or two, I'll be able to definitely announce some established artists and names that people will be taking notice of.
Right, then do you find a lot of these artists that used to be in majors are now coming out of the majors and going into independent? Because they're starting to realize.
Yeah, I mean they're either getting the rights reverted back to them, or their contracts run out and they fulfilled their obligation, and they're looking to get a bigger piece of the pie, get the lion's share of the royalties, which they definitely earn because they're the content creators. And that happened when I was at EMI in the mid 2000s. That's when we really started doing these third party distribution deals, and with these major artists that were coming off of majors. And there's going to be some growing pains. A lot of them are used to having the label at the time provide all the services and do all the work. All they do is just hand in the music and they're done. But now they have to realize, okay, not only do I have to focus on all these different aspects of the business, I also might have to pay for some of it. But the catch is you'll get more in the back end, so it will all be worth it in the long run.
Social media, personality, style, image, look. There's a lot going on that never used to happen. How important do you think social media is today? We talked about DSP, but I think they're really important promotional tools, right? You don't get paid, they're promotional tools.
Social media is super important, as you would probably know. I mean, it's at the point where back in the day, there were gatekeepers, which was the labels and publicists, and you could really not really as a regular person reach out to the artists and talk to them. Now with social media, that's gone. There's no more gatekeepers. You can have direct relationships with your fans. You can respond to them. They can react to you. They can comment on you and you can see it immediately. Like, that's changed the game drastically, which is why obviously all artists should really focus on social media. Even if they're not big on posting, they need to have somebody close by that they can trust, that can kind of relay the messages that they want out there on social media for them, and do it on a consistent basis so they can retain that fan base and that connection.
What is personality? A lot of people never talk about personality. They don't talk about the business. They don't talk about having that message. How important do you think that is for any artist that wants to be a big time
It's huge. I mean, I think being in distribution, I've noticed that you can really focus and deal with all aspects of the music industry, and it's a great place to learn. Um, you know what the music business really is, especially the business side. And for artists, the same thing. Like, if you have a good manager, they're gonna be there, to assist you through that. And ideally, they're experienced and have been in the business for years, whether it's dealing with independent artists or major label artists. Either way, you got to have at least knowledge of how both sides of the business work, and having that manager, having that team to help guide you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. No questions dumb enough to not ask. And the reason why is because everything's constantly changing. Someone like me who's been in the business for years, I still go to conferences, I still go to these panels and sit there and learn, because I'm not familiar with this new platform that's just launched, or I'm not familiar with how things are done nowadays on the touring side or in publishing. All these things constantly change. So being an artist that's willing to learn and open to the business side of things is only going to help you in the long run as well.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Jesse. And if people want to connect with you, find out more, collaborate, and then collaboration is part of the reason why we're here today. So, so important. How can people connect with you, find out more, sign up for Intercept, tell us more about
Yeah, they can reach out to me directly via email, jesse.flores@interceptmusic.com. They can check out our website, interceptmusic.com, or they can hit us up on Instagram, and the handle is at Intercept Music Official on Instagram. So there you
so
go.
percentage, by the way, for distribution fees. Because a lot of people talk about this, they want to know Is there a set rate, or do people have different?
So there's no like sign up fee for Intercept Music. We do charge a distribution fee, and a lot of it's based on the current label revenue or what the artist is currently generating. So everything's fair. You know, we don't like overcharge our artists and label partners. You know, everything is pretty much the standard. But like I said, the more catalog or more business you bring over to Intercept, the better rate we can give you guys.
You also sell merchandise and everything on Intercept as well, right? It's not just a place for music; it's a place for a whole.
Yeah, we definitely have a next generation platform. You can have a merch store directly online within our dashboard. It's a integration through Shopify. So any release you have, you can release a set of merch items to help support that release. As I stated earlier, we also have AI integrated when it comes to marketing. We also, if you have a release, you can set up advertising plans, advertising budgets through the actual dashboard, whether it's digital advertising or Spotify or YouTube, even outdoor advertising. So for like those big billboards you see in Times Square, that kind of thing, that can be booked online on the dashboard as well.
Well,
Yes, definitely. I'm sorry, what was that?
your major successes. The computer's falling too far. Do you want to tell the listeners about any of your major wins or successes? Sorry.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think a major winner success is just being able to be in this business for so long and be able to get knocked down and get back up and be in a place where I can actually make a difference, being with some people that I love working with and helping them take things to the next level. And that's what we definitely plan on doing at Intercept. I think over the next year or two, it's our time to shine, and we definitely got next. So that's a huge win for me.
You've got the right people on your team. You're doing an amazing job. And thank you all so much, your whole team, for being part of our podcast, sharing your skills with our listeners, your knowledge, your expertise. I just want to say thank you very, very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Saskia. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
See ya. Bye.